Alert! Mexico announces retaliation against Trump's tariffs. In the world of commerce, a single decision can change the fate of millions of people. Did you know that? Imagine a scenario where overnight, the prices of your favorite products, avocados, cars, and gasoline, skyrocket without warning. Let's analyze how the aggressive tariff policy of the United States has lit the fuse in Mexico, provoking a response that goes beyond mere numbers. The Mexican government has decided to counterattack with a series of tariff and non-tariff measures that promise to completely reconfigure the commercial relationship between the two nations. From the possible suspension of oil supplies to Texas, to restrictions that will affect the transit of goods and labor flows, Mexico is determined to hit where it hurts the most. Join us to discover all the details and understand the real impact this confrontation could have on the everyday lives of millions. Don't miss it! For decades, the trade relationship between Mexico and the United States has been one of the fundamental pillars for the growth and stability of both nations. With an annual exchange exceeding $800 billion, the mutual interdependence has enabled sectors as diverse as the automotive industry, manufacturing, and agribusiness to function in perfect harmony. However, the tariff policy imposed by the United States, especially under the administration of Donald Trump, has disturbed this balance. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the news that traditional media outlets are hiding from you. Let's continue. In response to the 25% tariffs on Mexican products and similar measures applied to goods coming also from Canada and Mexico, the Mexican government has been forced to adopt a strong stance. The imposition of these tariffs has severely affected exports, driving up the costs of essential products and creating tensions in key sectors. Faced with this scenario of commercial aggression, Mexico did not hesitate to announce that it would respond with forceful measures, both tariff and non-tariff, aimed at making the hit be felt in the economic area on which the United States relies to sustain its competitiveness. The rhetoric used by Mexican authorities, emphasizing that your avocados are going to cost more than 3 pesos, your new car up to 4,000 pesos more, and gasoline between 30 and 40 cents of a dollar extra per gallon, shows the intention to transfer the effects of the tariffs to various sectors and to the American end consumer. Moreover, this confrontation is not limited only to product prices. It also involves reconfiguring the importance of the supply chain and the mobility of goods between both nations. Among the direct responses announced, the President of Mexico declared that tariffs of 30% will be imposed on the most exported U.S. products to Mexico. These include corn, pork, and whiskey. These measures aim to affect the competitiveness of the goods that have a high demand in the United States and to generate pressure so that the tariff policy is reconsidered.
Hemos decidido responder con medidas arancelarias y no arancelarias, iniciar una confrontación económica o comercial.
Sus aguacates les van a costar más de $3, su coche nuevo hasta unos $3,000 más, su gasolina entre 30 y 40 centavos de dólar más por galón.
The tariff strategy is designed so that every price increase serves as a reminder of the cost of commercial aggression. For example, the Mexican avocado, already expensive due to a previous situation that raised its price by 20%, could reach up to 9 pesos per unit, turning it into a luxury item for the average American consumer. Likewise, other high-demand products will be affected, causing the basket of essential goods to readjust abruptly in the U.S. market. These measures, far from being only symbolic, represent a direct blow to the finances and competitiveness of some of the most important U.S. industries. The intention is clear: to force the U.S. administration to acknowledge the damage its policies are causing and to reconsider the imposition of tariffs. In addition to applying tariffs, Mexico has announced a series of high-impact non-tariff measures. One of the most forceful actions is the suspension of oil exports to Texas refineries, which depend on 600,000 barrels per day supplied from Mexico. This measure, which could take effect as early as next week, aims to directly undermine the energy supply of the United States, driving up not only gasoline prices, but also causing interruptions in industrial processing. But that is not all. The Mexican government has ordered the temporary suspension of shipments of critical minerals, such as lithium, gold, and copper, which are vital for the technology industry in the United States. Restricting the supply of these strategic resources could trigger a domino effect, affecting everything from the production of electronic devices to the competitiveness of high-tech sectors. Furthermore, strict restrictions are being implemented on the passage of goods into the United States. From auto parts to construction materials, it is anticipated that border inspections will be intensified, and there is even the possibility of prohibiting the passage of certain trucks. This measure aims to break the supply chains of key companies, causing delays and additional costs that will affect productive efficiency in the U.S. market. Another significant aspect of these retaliatory measures concerns the labor sector. With the intention of making the hit be felt, there are plans to limit the flow of Mexican workers into agricultural states such as California, Texas, and North Carolina, right in the middle of the harvest season. The idea is that by reducing the supply of specialized labor, the losses in productivity in the agri-food sector will accelerate, demonstrating the United States' dependence on a labor system that has been fundamental in the countryside for years. Retaliatory measures also extend to the automotive and manufacturing sectors. With the inclusion of 30% tariffs on products such as corn, pork, and whiskey, it is anticipated that the final cost of these items will increase dramatically, affecting the domestic economy in the United States. In addition, it is expected that the price of new vehicles will rise by as much as 4,000 pesos, and that gasoline will increase by between 30 and 40 cents per gallon. The automotive sector, which heavily depends on auto parts and components from Mexico, finds itself in an especially vulnerable position. With the imposition of restrictions on the transit of goods and stringent controls at the border, large manufacturers like General Motors and Ford could face a production decrease of up to 1/3. It is estimated that these conditions could lead to losses amounting to tens of billions of dollars in the coming years, affecting both company profitability and employment in the sector. Manufacturing in general will be further impacted by rising costs in raw materials and energy. With the supply of oil, electricity, and strategic minerals limited, the supply chain in sectors as varied as steel, aluminum, and other vital inputs will be compromised. The increase in operating costs will force a restructuring of production and possibly a readjustment in global market competitiveness. Mexican retaliations are designed to transfer the impact of these trade tensions to the final American consumer. With the price hike of essential products such as avocados, cars, and gasoline, a widespread increase in the cost of living is projected. Imagine that overnight, gas station prices skyrocket, and the weight of the tariffs is felt in the basket of basic products. This will affect not only company profitability, but also the purchasing power of millions of Americans. The effects of an interruption in the energy supply could be devastating for infrastructure and security in the United States. Regions dependent on electricity imported from Mexico could face massive blackouts, compromising the operation of hospitals, public transportation systems, and industrial production centers. It is estimated that a drop in the energy flow could mean losses of up to $550 billion per month, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and instability in multiple economic sectors. Remember, if you don't want to be the only one missing out on everything that's coming up, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going. Moreover, restrictions on the flow of goods and transit at the border would trigger a domino effect in national logistics. With more rigorous inspections and possible blockages, supply chains would be disrupted, driving up costs and causing delays in product delivery, which would impact the competitiveness of the U.S. industry and access to essential goods in the market. In the face of this confrontation, several scenarios are being considered. One scenario involves the gradual implementation of pressure measures, in which Mexico applies intermittent restrictions that, without causing an immediate collapse, force the United States to reconsider its tariff policy. This strategy would allow negotiation channels to open without excessively affecting the supply chain and the economy, although it does not exempt negative effects on prices and competitiveness. Another possible scenario is one of drastic escalation, in which Mexico suspends, either completely or intermittently, the exports of oil, electricity, and critical minerals. Such an action would trigger an energy crisis in the United States, causing current reserves, valued at approximately 580 million barrels, to last for no more than 90 days, and triggering a domino effect on refineries and transportation. This, in turn, could spark an economic recession in the region, with abrupt increases in inflation and a contraction in industrial production affecting both countries. Furthermore, the possibility that Mexico might join other partners, such as forming an anti-Trump commercial bloc together with Canada, or even approaching China as an alternative destination for its energy exports, opens the door to a complete reconfiguration of bilateral trade in North America. This reorientation could force the United States to seek new alliances and energy sources, which would entail a long and costly process of adaptation. In the labor sector, restricting the flow of Mexican workers in key agricultural states could exacerbate the decline in productivity in the agri-food sector. The expertise and specialized labor recognized worldwide will be compromised, which could slow production and increase the cost of food, affecting both producers and consumers. Using energy as a pressure weapon, along with restrictions on the trade of goods and the transit of merchandise, demonstrates that the trade war isn't limited to a simple tariff adjustment, but rather constitutes a comprehensive confrontation. By redirecting energy exports towards alternative markets, such as China, Mexico seeks to diversify its commercial destination, reducing its dependence on the U.S. market and strengthening new alliances. This strategy has the potential to irreversibly alter the commercial landscape in North America, forcing the United States to rethink its policies and seek new sources of supplies, which would have repercussions at every link in the production chain. On the other hand, adjusting export policies and implementing restrictions on the entry of U.S. products could even provoke migratory movements and a geopolitical reordering that affects regional stability. The threat of sending a massive flow of migrants into the United States, as part of the response to commercial pressures, increases uncertainty at the border and raises additional challenges in terms of security and human rights. The consequences of this confrontation will be directly felt in the domestic U.S. market, with essential products like avocados, cars, and fuels facing significant price increases. The impact on the consumer's wallet will be undeniable. The rise in gasoline prices, projected to increase between 30 and 40 cents per gallon, along with the increase in the cost of new cars and other goods, will affect demand and, consequently, the economic stability of the country. This situation will also impact the logistics and operations of numerous industries. The suspension of strategic exports, such as oil to Texas, not only will limit the functioning of refineries, but will also affect the entire distribution chain. Urban centers and industrial zones that depend on constant energy supplies will be forced to confront blackouts and delays that increase operating costs and market uncertainty. In the long run, this crisis could lead to a decline in the competitiveness of the U.S. economy, forcing a restructuring and a search for alternative energy sources that require colossal investments and time to materialize. Likewise, the impact on the manufacturing sector and the global supply chain will translate into higher costs for the production of consumer goods and increased prices for final products, affecting both companies and the end consumer. Indeed, The interruption in the flow of strategic raw materials, such as copper or lithium, will worsen the situation, affecting high-tech industries and advanced manufacturing. In short, Mexico's response to the tariffs imposed by the United States represents a bold and multifaceted strategy designed to protect its sovereignty and reconfigure bilateral trade. Do you think these measures, from the increase in the prices of essential products to the suspension of oil and mineral exports, will be enough to force a change in U.S. policy? Or could they trigger an escalation that irreparably affects both countries? What impact will this confrontation have on the daily lives of consumers and on the competitiveness of industry on both sides of the border? We want to know your opinion on this unprecedented scenario. Your opinion is essential in this debate. Leave us your comment and subscribe so that, together, we can drive the real change that this country demands.